Welcome back to Advocate Today. I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist. The Super Bowl brought together the two best teams in the NFL to duke it out for the Lombardi Trophy. The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Philadelphia Eagles 38-35. It was a thrilling game on the field, and history was made off and above the field as well. Advocate Editor at Large John Casey is here to discuss the historical implications that surrounded the big game. John, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Tracy.
Of course, it's always a pleasure to be with you. Let's begin by discussing the big history that we knew going into the game, which is that for the first time, there were two Black quarterbacks. So, would you talk about the historical significance of that? And then what led to this being the first time? I thought about that. I thought that's kind of wild that it's the first time this has happened. But, if you could talk a little bit to all of that.
Sure. So I am old enough to remember the second Black quarterback in the NFL, James Harris, who played for the Buffalo Bills. And even closer to home, growing up in Pittsburgh, the Steelers had a Black quarterback, Joe Gilliam, who backed up Terry Bradshaw. And when Terry Bradshaw was injured, Joe Gilliam came in to replace him. And at that time in the 70s, he went through a lot of people yelling racial comments at him, calling him the N-word, and it was horrific. And so it's really ironic that the Rooneys, who own the Steelers, came up with what's called the Rooney Rule. And that is that when an NFL team is hiring a coach, they have to interview at least one Black player. And which the NFL needs to do a better job on the first place. And so, the Steelers have had Mike Tomlin, who's the longest tenured coach in the NFL, as a Black coach, one of the only ones. So yes, having two quarterbacks like that it's hard to believe it took that long. And I'm glad the NFL last night recognized Doug Williams. Doug Williams, about 20 so years ago, led the Washington Redskins, the then Redskins, the Commanders now, to the Super Bowl, and he was Super Bowl MVP. So yes, in terms of history on that, this was really a big deal. And I'm just happy that the NFL recognized the legend that was Doug Williams, because he underwent a lot of examination as well, and a lot of ridiculous comments about his intelligence when he played for Washington in the Super Bowl.
The event really kicked off with Emmy winner and HIV activist Shirley Ralph singing Lift Every Voice, which is also known as the Black National Anthem. And would you speak to the significance of that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember seeing her in Dreamgirls when she was first starting out on Broadway, and she was amazing. And you sort of, when you saw her, you knew she was going to be a big deal someday. And personally, I mean, winning the Emmy for Abbott Elementary, I mean, that show is classic. She really deserved that for her performance. And yeah, she's been a long time advocate for our community and for HIV. So on a personal note, it was great to see her out there and know that she has that history behind her.
Right. And then, then it led into Babyface singing America the Beautiful, which was, a moment for this, legend to be out there. Would you talk about that, please?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, I can't believe he's in his 60s. This just makes, right? He's, I Googled him when, how old is he? He's 63, and I almost fell off the couch. I mean, that's just crazy to think Babyface is that old. But I thought an amazing job. His rendition was, it made the coach of the Eagles cry. So it was very emotional, I thought. And very well done. And I thought he was a very unique choice, really, to be chosen to sing the national anthem. So great choice, by the way, too.
Well, he did America the Beautiful, and Stapleton did.
Yes, right. Yes. But great choice to have him out there.
Yes.
So, right.
Yeah. Incredible. Well, speaking of the national anthem, there was this incredible flyover helmed by an all-women crew while Chris Stapleton did that amazing version of the national anthem. And would you talk about that inclusion of these women flying the planes over?
Yes, it just goes with what the NFL is trying to do. And they are trying to really relate to their women fans. It was no accident last night that Commissioner Goodell was sitting next to the mother of the Kels brothers. And the reason for all of the emphasis on women is not only because they realize they have a very strong fan base of women, but it's also, football has come under the microscope recently with all of the injuries, the concussions, um, the, the fact that the sport is really unsafe and dangerous, particularly at the level where you start to recruit or develop the players who eventually end up in the NFL, and that's in high school and college. So a lot of mothers have been reticent to have their sons. I even know one of my close friends will not let her son, who is huge, play football. And one of the reasons for that is she thinks it's too dangerous. So the NFL is aware of that. So they're doing as much as they can to soften the image with Goodell sitting with the Kels mother, but also doing things like having the all women flyover to sort of pop up on women's radar, that they know they're out there and they appreciate them.
Yeah. Yeah, that was incredible. Also, well, of course, one woman, Rihanna, the halftime show. This was quite an incredible performance. And I was just sitting there thinking, oh my God, hit after hit. So, would you please
Right?
speak to that really stunning halftime show that Rihanna performed?
It was exactly what should be with a halftime show. And let me explain what I mean. One performer singing her best hits, singing their best hits, not a bunch of, you were expecting last night that Paul McCartney was going to come up, or, some, or Chris Martin. Somebody was going to come up and start singing with Rihanna. And that didn't happen. And you also were expecting maybe children to come running out holding flashlights. Nothing like that happened. It was a very focus on Rihanna, and it was exactly what it should be.
I mean, she chose the world's largest stage to announce she was pregnant, which we can say because her rep confirmed it. So, congratulations are in order to Rihanna for that, and also for her incredible performance and product placement. There were only four ads during the entire Super Bowl that featured LGBTQ plus inclusion. There was one during the halftime and then one leading up that featured a queer couple. And this is in line or on par with last year, but down from 2020, where there were 11 ads with LGBTQ plus inclusion in the body of the Super Bowl. So GLAAD isn't thrilled with that. I don't think anyone should be. GLAAD basically said at a time when LGBTQ plus people are under attack more than we have been in recent history, this is not a good trend. I wonder, would you please speak to that?
Well, working in marketing departments for retailers and various companies for the last 35 years, it's all about the money. And I'm afraid that, these ads are tested, focus groups, everything to make sure they're addressing the right audience. And I think there was a few years ago, a lot of brands were under pressure to address the LGBTQ audiences more.
Mm.
Probably as a result, they found that during the Super Bowl, for example, it wasn't the best time to reach the LGBTQ audience.
Well, John Casey, thank you very much for joining me here. It was a big night to remember, both on and off the field. Thanks for being here, John.
And thanks for having me, Tracy. And let's go Steelers for next year's Super Bowl.
Great. Well, you can open the Advocate channel wherever you stream or online at advocatechannel.com for more Super Bowl coverage.